What's up, legends? The Reprimand SMG at max level is an absolute beast. I suspected it was going to be the case, which is why I ended up leveling it up first before any other weapon in the game. The Reprimand SMG is one of the very few medium armor penetrating automatic weapon in the game, and it is the only SMG that has medium armor pen. On top of its medium armor AP, the weapon bolsters a 125 damage per shot, which is the highest out of any other automatic weapon in the entire game. The weapon previously had three major issues with it. Firstly was its somewhat limited ammo capacity, secondly was its extremely hard kicking recoil, and thirdly was its terrible spread, making your first shot accuracy feel absolutely terrible. But as of this Tuesday, with the weapon customization update, we can now get rid of most of that recoil and having this bad boy laser beam just like this. And yes, they also patched out the spread issue on the Reprimand as well as various other weapons, so yeah, combine this new laser beam accuracy with its very high damage output and medium armor penetration, and we've got an absolute monster of a weapon right now that can pretty much destroy all three factions in the game. So let's take a look at how to transform this SMG into this beast of a weapon. Firstly, for optics, I opt in for the level 24 iron sights. This is going to depend heavily on your playstyle. Personally, I rarely go in first person ADS to shoot, and even when I do, I find the iron sights is more than enough to hit accurate shots. The iron sight will also increase this weapon's ergonomics for us, which is going to play a big role in aiming in both third person and first person. Some people are going to be more sensitive to poor ergonomics than others though, so pick as you like. I consider myself very sensitive to poor ergonomics, and I get very easily frustrated with weapons that are crappy in this area. If you're unsure what ergonomics are in Helldivers 2, it's essentially how quickly your weapon snaps to the center of the screen while turning the camera. So essentially, a high ergonomic weapon will be more responsive with the aiming. And you can spin it how you want it, but for me, low ergonomics just kind of feels like I'm playing with awful input lag, and I entirely dislike this mechanic, but hey, the best we can really do is to try to mitigate this issue with attachments. Moving on to Underbarrel, for me, this is a very obvious pick. There's realistically only one good choice, which is the vertical foregrip, which will decrease your vertical recoil by a whopping 30%. You could go for a flashlight if you want, if you actually use the flashlight in this game, but personally, I never do, so for me, it's an easy pick. Now, as for the muzzles, things get a little bit more interesting. Your choices are all fantastic in my opinion. The compensator is going to be bringing your vertical recoil so far down you'll barely have any recoil left on it, but it's not going to assist you at all with horizontal recoil. Now mind you, horizontal recoil isn't much of an issue on the Reprimand anyways, but I must say that for absolutely pinpoint accuracy, generally getting rid of horizontal recoil will be a better choice, as it's harder to counter the unpredictability of the right and left recoil, opposed to just bringing your mouse down or your analog down with the vertical recoil. And for that reason alone, I recommend bringing the muzzle brake here, especially against the Automatons and Illuminates, as pinpoint accuracy is going to be far more relevant. For Terminids, where all of their weak spots are large and easy to hit, the compensator may be a better choice, as it's going to require far less pulling down as you play on a full 40-minute game. If you just want to simplify your life and have a very solid choice, however, just bring the flash hider. That'll improve your vertical recoil, your horizontal recoil, and it even has a better ergonomics than the other two choices. So this is kind of like the playing it safe choice. Now, even though we've just gone over the attachment choices here, pushing this weapon to its limit does not end here. There are going to be a couple of armor sets in this game that can push this weapon to its extreme, and I would say the armor choice is going to depend heavily on the faction you're going up against. For example, against the Terminids, I would recommend utilizing the Urban Legends Light Armor Set with a Siege Ready passive. This armor set will be giving you maximum mobility to keep you on the move against the Terminids, and its armor passive is going to counter the Reprimand's poor ammo economy by increasing it by 20%. On top of it all, it'll also decrease its reload speed by 30%, allowing you to keep a steady uptime and a strong damage output against the bugs, which in turn will allow you to control large waves of enemies with far more ease. Over at the Automatons though, I take a little bit of a different route. You've got two solid choices here, one being armor sets using the fortified passive, which provides a 50% resistance to explosive damage, which are a huge help against devastators, turrets, rocket striders, hulks, tanks, etc. You get the point. And the other armor set is going to be the engineering kit, which will increase your grenade capacity by 2, giving you 2 more thermites to constantly handle hulks and tanks and the likes. But I do believe the explosion resistance is a far better choice here. Both of these armor sets will also give you a recoil reduction of 30% on top of the recoil reduction from the attachments, turning this weapon into even more of a laser beam. Seeing how Automatons is more about you hitting clean headshots other than holding down your fire button, I find that taking an accuracy with explosive resistance armor set works far better than bringing a siege ready armor set, which is more or less meant to unleash constant fire onto your enemies. For the Illuminates, I do believe that the engineering kit is going to be the way to go, as you're going to be needing tons and tons of gas grenades or napalm grenades to contain all of the voltlesses that are always rushing you down. And, well, explosion resistance doesn't really play much of a role against Illuminates, so there's also that. As for the Siege Ready versus Engineering Kit, I still think Engineering Kit will offer more value against the Illuminate, as shooting voltlesses generally isn't really a great idea anyways. The Reprimand is mostly going to be focused on Watchers, Flesh Mobs, headshotting Overseers, and if you're feeling ballsy, you can even shoot down the Stingrays as well. I do find that out of the 3 factions, the Illuminate is where the Reprimand shines the least, as there are honestly far better weapons out there that outshine it in nearly every sense, such as the Scorcher or Purifier or the Crossbow. Despite all that though, I think that the Reprimand is at the top of the food chain for ballistic weapons, and it currently is one of the best for any Helldiver out there wanting to use a very reliable and very strong rifle. I know it's an SMG, but it sure as hell feels like a rifle. So here's a couple of great loadouts for each faction if you're bringing the Reprimand to close off the video. Against the Automatons, the Reprimand will be your Devastator, Trooper, and Gunship Killer. The Ultimatum is going to be for killing hulks, tanks, and factory striders, and the Thermite will help out the Ultimatum deal with those big guys as well. For armor set, like we said earlier, bring a fortified armor set passive. I recommend the medium set to keep your mobility high while being able to take sustained damage from the Automaton's fire. Over against the Terminids, a similar story for the weapons, but the Reprimand will be for your small to medium-sized bugs, which is pretty much the vast majority of them. The Ultimatum and Thermite will be only for your Chargers, Impalers, and Bile Titans. And as for the armor set, like we mentioned earlier, the Siege Ready Light Armor Set, to keep you on your toes and keep the ammo economy and damage uptime as high as humanly possible. And lastly, for Illuminate, we've got the Reprimand for Watchers, Overseers, and Flesh Mobs, and Stingrays if you're feeling courageous. We also bring the Crisper for Voltlesses and Flesh Mobs as well, and we top it off with the Gas Grenade for wiping out Voltlesses armies. Lastly, of course, the Engineering Kit armor set for increased gas grenades to keep those dissidents at bay. And that's it for today's loadout and this video. Try this beast out, you will not regret it. I'll be catching you legends on the next one. Peace.